grave of Finton. He died in Ngong Hills. 1931.
Shortcut.
Yeah.
Because we all know about Denys Hatton, but I will just explain how and why he went back. We don't know about that. In fact, we didn't know there was somebody like Kamante. So back to tell you. So if you go back home, please tell them about Kamante himself, because many people know about Kamante. He was a good guy. But before all those Kamante characters, Denys Hatton is a big game hunter. They say aristocratic big hunter. So he used to during his lifetime and he was the son of Anna and Finch Hatton. And during those years, around
1910.
most of the part was in Kenya, that is Rift Valley. We get some different or central lands in Kenya, Mombasa, Tanganyika, and during his hunting and during the safari, he met Karen Vixen. And when Karen Vixen was coming over here, she had come to meet Denys. No, not Denys, Braun. Baron Braun. Baron Braun happened to be her husband, but her relationship with him was not that perfect. So she divorced him in 1825. Although she had already started her relationship with Denys Hatton, and they were introduced in 1918, and in the Mavega County Club, you know about it. It was in Eldoret. That is where they met. That is where they finalized their relationship. Karen Vixen had a farm in her house before it became a assembly. So there was a lot of people. There was a lot of movement. So she didn't like it. So she preferred her life to be Denys. So when she was meeting Denys where we are standing, this is where they should find. This is where they should come for picnics and also a romantic picnic. So in that tree you see there, we call it acacia tree. They had built a small tent there, and that is where they used to spend their time together. Although most of the time you see that there was a river somewhere on the other side. There was a river. We call it tunaitanga Ewaso.
Ewaso, yeah.
Yes, that is where
Ewaso.
they used to go and wash their hair. They take their things like, I think you understand by those things. And then they come and rest under this tree. And that is when Denys and Karen Vixen decided that when they die, they should be buried here. And actually Denys is the one who died before Karen Vixen, and he died from an airplane crash in Mombasa, Starboard Foy. That is airport today. Yeah, that is Foy. So it is an airport today. That is where he had an airplane crash accident, and he didn't die alone. He died with his servant Kamau. Although Kamau was somehow a mechanic, something like that, because the plane, when the plane was flying over to come over in Nairobi, it had some leak. Although they don't say why Denys died from an airplane, so we just say he died from an accident. And in accordance to his wishes, the remains of Denys Hatton was brought to Karen Vixen, and that is when she came over here and she buried Denys the way he wanted. So where you are standing, the first stone, grave of Denys Hatton. That is where he was laid by Karen Vixen under the acacia tree, and he wished to be buried at the center of Ngong Hills overlooking the Nairobi National Park. That was somehow some few kilometers to the west. And you see, when Karen Vixen was in her house, they said that she could see the gate. And when she was burying Denys, she had some last words for Denys. Somehow sad, somehow emotional, but I have to say it. Actually, when she was burying Denys, she had some last word for him. And she said that, please take the soul of Denys Hatton, whom you shared with us. We loved him well. He brought joy to us. He was not mine. He was not ours. And those were the last words to Denys Hatton. She took the soil, she went behind the tree, and that's where she mourned Denys. So after that, after some few days, after Denys was laid, the lions were spotted on the grave of Denys, a male and a female. According to how she wrote her book out of Africa. And since she lost the coffee farm, she became broke. So she had nothing to do in Kenya. So she decided to go back to Denmark. So before she left, she asked Kamante, once you go back home, please watch the film out of Africa. When Karen Dixon told Kamante that there is no work, and at that time, Kamante was learning to speak English because he was a peculiar man. Because even when Karen Dixon came in Kenya, her mission was to teach children to speak English, writing and reading, and maybe a lot of things. So when Kamante asked Karen Dixon whether there is any work he can do, Karen Dixon was like, there's no work for you because I have to go back home. But if I come back, there will be some work for you. But Commander was very determined. So he asked Karen Dixon if he can do something for her. At least he can get something to do for himself. Because he was a young man with a lot of dreams, with a lot of vision, with a lot of goals. But for Karen Dixon, he had a dream. She had a dream about Kamante. And that is when she chose Kamante to be watching over the grave of Denys Hatton even today. Even if he's not alive, Kamante is still taking care of the grave. So after that is when Karen Dixon went back to Denmark. The same year Denys died. So the following year, in 1932, the family of Denys, they came in Kenya and they built the obelisk. As you can see, the obelisk, it was built by his brothers, one of his brothers, Lord Wilchase, and some other friends. There's one who built the obelisk of Denys Hatton as a token of love from his family. Even back in England, the school that used to school, Eton University, there is another grave, there is another obelisk for Denys Hatton on the top of the university. Then when Karen Dixon was writing her book Out of Africa, which was published in 1937, she mentioned that when they were with Denys Hatton, she also wished married next to Denys Hatton. Also that never happened. So she also had not to believe that. But she also her own grave. So we actually have two graves here. But only Denys Hatton is buried here. So we have one mark here. So we have that is one. And then we have another one here. There is another one. That is one more. That is one more mark. Yes. You can go down. One more and one more. I believe that is the grave of Karen Dixon. She also wanted to be buried next to Denys Hatton, but her wishes weren't fulfilled because she died in Denmark and she was very sick. She was very old, and I think she had already lost hope. So she did mention that once she died, she wished to be buried next to Denys. Although her book was not that famous like today, her book is very famous today. But when she was alive, maybe she became famous in her old age. But today she's very famous even in her death. So actually that's what happened. So after years went on, the country got the freedom around 1963. That is when Karen Dixon died, and she was buried under a very beautiful tree, a very simple grave back in Denmark next to her house, which is a museum today. And also the house in Kenya, it's a museum today. It's a very popular house where people normally visit her house. Then after that, people come to see the grave of Denys. Then after some years, Kamante, he married. He got children. He had two sons, Douglas Kimani and Francis. And then Douglas Kimani is my godfather. He's the one who got Kamante. I mean, that young man who acted as Kamante Joseph Jakakamau. So the film was actually played in 1985 out of Africa. Robert Redford played as Denys Hatton, and Karen Dixon was played by Melfi. Kamante was played by my father, Joseph Jakakamau.
Wow.
Yes. So actually that's what happened. So it is like that. Yeah.
And where is the commander by?
As I got
Commander.